Today I wanted to go through what I saw through the orbital diagrams of Comet ISON, a similarity that was between Ed Dame's hand-drawn sketch of the kill shot that did it in a remote viewing session. And if you believe in the electric universe, there's no way you can discount that comets do electrically affect the sun in plasma discharge. And you'll always notice where the comet goes, the CME follows. The kill shot Ed Dames refers to is a really incredibly large coronal mass ejection that takes down the electrical grid on the planet, or at least parts of it on our Earth. So you might ask yourself, will there be an advanced warning? And the answer is yes, but we need to look back in history to ancient cosmology when we do have stories of dragons in the sky. The dragons are nothing more than plasma discharges from planet to planet, or either comet to planet, or something from the sun to the planet to the comet, like we're about to witness and we've seen happen with Mars in the first week of October and the last couple of days of September. Taking a look at the orbital diagram of ISON as it passed directly over the North Pole of Mars around 7 million miles above the North Pole. As you can see what Mars looked like before the electrical event, as you can clearly see as the Birkeland currents activated from the sun out 146 million miles to the North Pole of Mars in conjunction with the electric comet. The electrical interaction across space are termed Birkeland currents, and obviously they did activate at this time when the magnetic north conjuncted with the comet itself and something activated from the sun, and indeed those currents did start flowing. There's a lot of different pictures, nothing from NASA, nothing from the European Space Agency, nothing from any governments. All these pictures that you're going to find about the coma forming and the electrical interaction are off different Earth-based telescopes, people's cameras, sightings, and people just like you and me who actually went outside, saw this event, and took photos. As we can see, I'm just going to let them run here. There's quite a few. I like the New Mexico telescope there. People trying to work with Photoshop to differentiate the different tones to show the coma. These three images come from the Curiosity rover, unprocessed images, but look at the top there. It looks as if the coma from the comet itself is some sort of line of light across. Obviously, that's the interaction electrically that they're catching on film, as well as some sort of cloud bank has formed on the planet. Was there an evaporation of some of the water and carbon dioxide on the planet because of the interaction in the plasma state that actually released that into the gaseous state and now recondensed into clouds? Notice the spike in energy density from the sun discharging during the same exact days that the comet was over the North Pole of Mars. Another electrical discharge phenomenon was on Jupiter's moon Io. It was the largest eruption that astronomers had witnessed, and it was about the same distance from the sun to Mars as the comet was to Jupiter when the eruption happened. ISON was on the way to Mars when this happened on August 15th. Coincidental or not? No, I think it's an electrical interaction between all the bodies and ISON itself. Now back to the kill shot. Would we have some warning? And I believe we will. I believe we're going to see something in the heavens that has not been witnessed for about 4,000 years. If we take a look at their ancient cosmology, there's a lot of representations of stars, dragons, things that connect. Plasma discharge is represented as mythical beings that could be no other way explained 4,000 years ago before we have the technology that we have currently. Taking a look at the orbital diagram, you can see how the comet is on the outside of Mercury, directly facing the sun, and Mercury is kind of a sandwich between those two electrical forces there in itself. If you notice, the graph shows the density is far higher with Mercury than it was with Mars, especially with the inner core being made so much of iron and nickel, and the percentage of the core itself is far higher than it was with Mars. So you would expect there to be a much greater electrical interaction with Mercury, especially in that specific spot it's in. In order to see this precursor event, you'll have to be up around 5 or 5:30 in the morning looking toward the east directly as Mercury is rising. What I believe we're going to see is some radial discharge and some sort of plasma discharge streamers traveling between the sun, Mercury, and the comet itself. Now, as you notice here, again, mythologically, when we come through, the dragon is represented, and I think that is the energy streaming between the two. And when it gets out of control and incredibly heavy, you start to get what look like the legs coming off there as they discharge out, almost like lightning would do on our own planet. This interaction with Mercury will give us a good idea what will be happening with the effect on Earth, because the distance is similar. It's about 29 million miles to Mercury, and if we do see any effects, and what I believe is going to be comet ISON connecting with Mercury and then connecting with the sun below the horizon, it'll be during the daytime as well as it comes over during the sunrise Whatever the interaction might be between the planet and the comet itself, connected by the sun, we're going to experience something similar. The distance isn't exactly that far away. Although Mercury is closer to Ison, 29 million miles compared to 42 million miles, in space, that's very little distance between the two. So you can get a rough idea about the discharges that we'll experience here on Earth, as well as the disruption to the electrical grid and the satellites. It's a good way in advance to see what's coming, and that might explain the government shutdown and why they're keeping everybody out of the national parks because, as you know, a lot of people plan if it gets bad to head into nature. What's the best way to keep them out? You close it so they can't get there when something does happen. Now, in the last image I've included here, you can see this was the maximum discharge during the comet experience over the Mars North Pole. Now, if we take that at 7 million miles and we divide that by 42 million, that's a simple 7. So if we decrease the action and activity by 7 times, or even if it's exponential and we decrease that by 49 times, and still put those same parameters on the Earth and our electrical grid and electrical system, what effect would that have? And that's truly the question you need to ask, especially if there is some interaction between Comet Ison and our own electrical field on the Earth. Faraday cage might be the answer, actually. Okay, to wrap things up here, keep your eyes pointed toward the eastern horizon between, let's say, November 12th and November 18th. What you see up there happening is going to be reflective of what will come by here another month later onto our little blue planet. Good luck.